Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the CCA Trio. This is the latest from CCA. A 3 dynamic driver this time around, three 8mm drivers in a 3-way configuration. So one driver is being used for, let's say, more sub-bass and bass applications. The second one is being used for bass and mids, and then the third one is being used for mids and highs, so upper mids and highs. At least that's the information I was able to gather from CCA. The shell is basically the same shell that we've seen already before in some of the other IEMs in terms of the design and everything. It looks very similar to the Rhapsody, it looks very similar to the Caster. It's got that kind of vibe, obviously with a slightly different faceplate design, semi-open back plate as well. You can see the drivers, well, you can see one of the drivers inside, and you can see a black support which holds the other two drivers as well. Fit is the usual CCA KZ philosophy. I mean, I had no issues with the fit. It's, you know, more than satisfactory. The build quality as well, more than satisfactory. I mean, especially when you consider this is $30, you know, you have to question yourself, how do they do it? And if they are able to do it, why don't other brands do it as well? Why do we sometimes have to pay the absurd amounts of money for certain IMs? I can understand some of them, that the money is being invested in certain aspects, okay, but a lot of IMs, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, are terribly overpriced. You know, I just don't understand it sometimes. Anyway, but that's irrelevant. That's a little minor rant of mine. I'm not showing you the accessories and the package that comes with it in terms of tips and cables, because I just never use it. I am using KB 07s. I've got the yellow ones here, but I also use the 07, the mid-sized ones like I have on the Rhapsody here. Look, the difference is very minor between the two tips. I would say it's 50-50, so, you know, I could have had either one on here. I would be happy with it, okay? Anyway, this is the actual physical aspect of it. It doesn't, you know, it's got a nice weight to it. It's got a nice feel to it. It looks the part. It looks the business, and that's the main thing. You know, I guess. Well, not the main thing, but one of the main things. It's got to look. It's got to look special. Let's put it that way. And KZ and CCA always manage to tick that box. I've got here the Caster. Okay. I've got here the Rhapsody, I've got here the RT-R1, and I've got here the PENON the ISN Neo 3. So a wide variety here of IEMs. The Caster and the Rhapsody are here because, well, this is two coaxially mounted drivers. I could have had here as well the CCA Duo, but the CCA Duo's tuning is very different to these two offerings here. As the same thing applies with the CCA Caster, the Harmony Edition. The tuning was so different that it just made no point in having it. So I've opted here for the Caster, the base version. The settings that I'm using here on the switches is 0011 for the Caster. There you go. As that is the setting that, at least for me, satisfies me the most, gives me the best balance. You know, it's just the setting that works for me, period. I'm using the foam tips as opposed to the KB ears, the silicones, because with the foam tips, with these complies, I actually get it smoothens out slightly the upper mids and treble on the Caster, which can sometimes just be a little bit too much. I've got a modified Caster as well, which is actually this one here, which I've added I've put a 450 filter on the actual nozzle, and that does allow then for the silicone tip to be used, although I've got this one here as well with the foams, but that one does allow then for the silicone tips to be used and obtain that smoothness, so that I'm looking for. The Rhapsody, I think right now you can get it for $35. I think it's one of the best IEMs, honestly, that KZ has made. This the AS24, even the AS16 Pro, but the AS24, you know, the ZVX. There are a few IMs, the PR1 Pro. There are a few IMs that KZ and CCA have launched that are really stand out, and the Rhapsody definitely is one of them. And again, the philosophy here has been a three-way setup. One of the two 8mm drivers is being mainly focused on the bass, or on the sub bass and the bass. The second one on the bass and on the mids, and then it's got 4 BAs helping out then in the higher frequencies and in the upper mids. And in essence, the philosophy is very similar here as well, but there is differences here that you do notice on the Rhapsody over the Trio. The RTR one, 3 drivers as well, 3 dynamic drivers, and 8 and 2 6s. Once again, one of the most impressive IMs I've heard over the last couple of months. Very well tuned, very well put together, and luckily now it's getting a little bit more traction and people are actually paying a little bit more attention to it. But it's a very nicely tuned IM. And then finally, the ISN, the Neo 3. Again, 3 drivers, 2 6s and a 5.8 planar, which I thought it was just interesting. I mean, obviously it's $200. This is 60. This is 35. It was initially 50. This is about 30. This is about 50 to $20. So the disparity of prices here is huge. I mean, with the price of the Neo, you can basically buy all the other IEMs. Yeah. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of and show. Is there an improvement? Is there an upgrade? Is there how do I position these compared to that one, and how does that one compare to these ones in terms of position? It's just an interesting exercise, and not necessarily an attempt by me to say, oh, this one is the best, this one is the worst, and so on and so forth. I think the main thing here is, how does the Trio stack up to the Rhapsody? I think that's the main question many people will want to ask and will want answered. Okay, let's jump straight into the sound. The switches here on the Trio, much like on the Rhapsody and on the Caster, allow for basically a change in the bass profile and a slight change in the mids and the highs, but the main change is in the bass profile. I've opted here for all the switches up because, again, that's the setting that gives me the best balance between the bass, the mids and the highs. And on the Rhapsody, I've opted for once again all the switches in the up position. So let's just show you so you guys can see. All right, there we go, all up. Although on the Rhapsody, sometimes I do like using it with the first 2 switches up and the second 2 down, and I'll explain that in a sec. Okay, as well, there, as you can see, all the switches up. All right, so the bass here on all 3 is very similar. There is a slight difference here in terms of the bass with regards to the Caster to the other 2, although it graphs the same. There's just a little bit extra amount of quantity, perhaps, because it is a 10mm as opposed to being 8s on the other 2. But the difference is not huge. However, having said that, this one will probably be the one more capable of handling, let's say, or satisfying those extreme bass heads, while these 2 will do a good job of it, but maybe not as capable. Mind you, the differences are not huge. Please, the differences are not huge. In terms of quality of the bass, these 2 definitely have a better quality bass than the Caster. Again, not by much, but better quality, less quantity than this. This one's got more quantity, less quality than these 2. The way that I've got them set up, and when I show you the graphs, you'll see in terms of the mid bass impact, everything very similar. And then in terms of the rest of the frequency, they all kind of do the more or less the same sort of graphic. But there is noticeable differences. The noticeable difference is past 8K. This one has got more detail because the BAs, and also the BAs helping out in that upper mids and treble, does make this one, the Rhapsody, be the more resolving, the one that has the more twinklies and sparklies, the one that has the more ability to create this atmosphere, while these 2 have got that to a lesser degree. This one is a little bit less polished than the Trio. Only 2 drivers. Yes, 3. So obviously that would not obviously that would be expected, but you know, it does mean that this one will have to work harder to do what the Trio does with 3 drivers. So this one is slightly less polished than that, and that's the reason why I'm using the phones. But you know, I guess for easy casual listening, you won't really notice a difference. You'll start noticing that difference if you like listening to a lot of like vocal stuff and like a lot of jazz like I do. Then you will pick it up. Like I'll keep pushing from Les Sable. You do notice a difference between these two, definitely. You notice that this one is just a little bit more polished, a little bit more mature than in the way that it does things. And then again, you notice the difference between these two. And then the option here, or the choice between the Trio and the Rhapsody, will basically be down to, do you prefer an all DD sound, or do you like the BA timbre? Okay, which mind you, let me make that perfectly clear. The Rhapsody, for not only a CCA but for a lot of IEMs that are using BAs, is very, very well done in terms of how that tonality comes across. It's not aggressive. It doesn't have that usual harshness and S that you find usually associated with, let's say, the more basic or the cheaper implementations of BAs. So although they're not using any fancy BAs, the way that they've tuned it, the way that they've done it, has been well done, to the point that you say, wow, this is good. I'm gonna let the small few times that things are not exactly spot on pass, because for $35 you can't complain. I mean, that's the reality. Let's be honest here. We have to be a little bit more flexible when we are talking about a cheaper end product than when we are talking about a product which costs $500. If it was a $500 product performing like this, that would be impressive, but I would be saying, okay, it could be better, because at $500 you have products which are very well tuned when it comes to the BAs and how they are implemented. I mean, you listen to, for example, a Studio 4, and BAs, they are well implemented. You know, it's got its thing. You listen to a 530 from APZ 530, the same situation. It's BAs there in the mids and the highs. And, you know, you listen to an SA6, the Duno SA6, the Mark II, and again, a very nice implementation of mids and highs with the BAs. They're doing the work they should be doing without showcasing the negatives, let's put it that way. Anyway, so bass I've covered. Mids very much equal, and the differences that occur here is the difference of being more polished, less polished, more detailed. So this is more polished than that, more detailed than that. Between the two of them here, there's a slight advantage here in terms of female vocals on the Rhapsody over the Trio. The male vocals are about the same. In instruments, especially trumpets and guitars and stuff like that, so string instruments and wind instruments, I would say there's a slight advantage here, but it will be very much a personal taste dependent thing. You might not like how it's done here and prefer the way it's done here. I wouldn't really say this one is more organic or that's more clinical. They have very slight differences, but enough to be noticed if you have, you know, a sensitive ear ability. I would say that the factor here that will be very important is what you have in terms of deck. If you're using something like the Yuki, or something that uses mainly the Cirrus Logic chips, I would say that you will get away better with the BA timbre. If you're using something which has an ESS based DAC chip, then the BA might be a little bit too much here on the Rhapsody, depending on what you want. While here the Trio is more forgiving in that aspect. So be it an ESS, or be it a CS, or be it even an AKM like an M1P from Colorfly, it kind of always more or less maintains its similar vibe of sound. All right, so I guess that basically covers. Technically, then. Look, we can't expect the world in terms of technicalities when we are talking at this price point, all right? So let's be frank about that as well. But this has got adequate technicalities for its price. this the same thing, and this the same thing. I would say that the detailed retrieval and the resolution are the best here on the Rhapsody. I would say the timbre and tonality very equal on both. Soundstage slightly better here, although it can be perceived as being a little bit more artificial, but slightly bigger than here. And in terms of imaging as well, slightly better here than here again. Once more, although it can be perceived or it can be a little bit more artificial, it is slightly better than the Trio. Not a huge difference, and will be, once again, like I just said, very much dependent on the DAC that you are using and so on. Taking the Trio and like comparing it with the R1, I mean, this is twice the price. Are you getting twice the performance? I would say with the R1 as compared with the Trio, what you are getting is a more polished performance. And you listen to them, and if it's a casual listen, you probably won't even be able to distinguish too much between them. But when you start paying a little bit more attention, and you listen to things like, for example, let's see, Luna Love from Jacob Gurevich, this does it just that little extra more polished, just that touch more. Okay. If you listen to Rain from Molly Johnson, again, same thing. The R1 does it just that extra amount of more polished, more mature, more serious. Okay. If you are going to listen to something like Tell Me from Tin Liquor, I mean, probably you'll probably say that they are the same IM, and maybe even prefer the Trio. The Trio does do EDM and electronic, the electronic music, EDM pop, does do it very nicely. Does give it a good engagement, does give it a good energy. Let's see here. If you listen to, for example, Savannah from John Lina, any one of these three does it very well. I would say perhaps the Rhapsody actually will be the one that edges out these two ever so slightly on this particular song. Let's see, Spanish Breeze from Antonio Forcione. The focus here is a guitar. Comparing the R1 with the Trio, I would say the R1 edges out the Trio ever so slightly. The Rhapsody edges out ever so slightly the R1. But again, very much like here, it's what do you prefer, an all DD sound, or do you prefer a BA sound as well? That's the same situation here between the Rhapsody and the R1. Let me see what else. Tequila Moon from Jesse J, another song that I like listening to. All three of it do it very nicely. The Rhapsody and the R1 are the ones that do it better in this Trio here. Okay. As compared now, taking now the ISN and just talking slightly of the ISN over these three, let's put it that way. When I did my review of the ISN, I said that this was very capable of offering a performance that was difficult to kind of sometimes justify. Am I going to be am I getting 3 times the performance or 2.5 times the performance on the Neo as opposed to the as I was saying, my apologies, does it offer twice or 2.5 times the performance? No, it doesn't. What you will be getting here on the Neo 3 as opposed to the R1 is again an increase in polish. You lose in terms of bass. This has got a better bass than the Neo 3 in my opinion. Bass in terms of quantity, okay, and what you get is an increase in just how mature and how well executed it is. That's it. Compared to the Trio, I mean, if you take one and the other, I think a lot of people will prefer this because they don't understand what the Neo 3 is trying to do. The Neo 3 is trying to give you a musical correct sound, a very competent sound in terms of its technicalities, and doing it in a setup which is not usually seen, 2 6mm and a 5.8mm planar, and it does it very well. I mean, the Neo 3 is a very, very good IM, but it is an IM which is somewhat sensitive to what you use with it, so the results will be very mixed. If, for example, you're using the space cable like I am, fantastic. you know, and it's one of those IMs where, and I am a person which is somewhat skeptical to this, to the whole cable thing, because it always generates a lot of controversy, but it is an IM where I did notice differences between cables. It is an IM that, depending on the source, again, it will shine more or less. For example, I like the Neo 3 very much with a Cirrus Logic and an AKM setup. Fantastic. If with an ESS, not so much. So it is a more sensitive IM for you to be able to extract from it its best performance. This one is more forgiving. All right. So, you know, this price jump must be accompanied with having that in mind, that, you know, there are aspects that you're going to have to consider in order to get the best performance out of the Neo 3. And that's it, guys. I mean, I think I've basically explained and positioned well the Trio. It's a fantastic IM. I think it's another very well executed IM that ultimately I'm confident in saying joins that group of IMs that KZ and CCA have launched over the couple of you know, year and a half, which are competent. You know, like I said, the AS24, the amazing IM, the ZVX, the CXS, the Rhapsody, even to a certain extent the Duo was nice, although it was a little bit bass light. But they, you know, the PR1 Pro, fantastic planar, still for me the best planar that they've done by far the best planar. So they've been able to hit the nail on the head a few times. Obviously, you know, in good CCA and KZ form, we can expect an upgrade soon enough, or another take on this setup. So let's see what they have in store for us next. But as of now, Trio, thumbs up, definitely. Anyway, guys, I'll show you another graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, take care. Hi guys, welcome now to the graph section here for the CCA Trio. Let me first of all show you the graph just for the Trio. Number 5, that's the caster, so take that out. Number 6 is the Rhapsody, so take that out as well. And let's leave the graph here of the Trio. This is with the 111, that's with the 0011, and that's with the 000. Okay, so this is the CCA Trio in the all switches up position. Okay, this is with the first 2 switches off and the last 2 on, and this is with all the switches off. Funny enough, and I guess that's just the way they did it, with all the switches off, that's where you get the most amount of mid bass. But it also, I mean, it's not that the bleed increases dramatically. As you can see, basically the mids, upper mids and treble maintain itself the same, but because the bass performance changes, then obviously the perception of the mids will also change according ever so slightly. The 0011 setup, which is this one, it's a nice setup which I enjoyed, particularly with female vocals. Okay, but I ended up opting most of the time for this one because it was just the one that actually, you know, which is the all switches up. It just gave me the nicest, let's say, balance of everything. Yes, I did lose a bit of mid bass impact. Okay, and in occasions I did go for just the all switches down, just for the sake of listening and seeing how that was. But ultimately I just thought it was just a little bit too much for some of the music that I listened, and I ended up always reverting to all the switches up as opposed to having the switches all down. Okay, so the comparisons that I'm going to be doing are with this setup, which is the one that I personally like the most, compared to the caster in the setup that I also like the most in the caster, which is the 0011. This is how it looks. So bass wise, kind of similar, but obviously it's a 10mm, so it's more quantity. Mids very similar. It's here in the upper mids and treble that there's some differences, and like I said, it's less polished. It's more, for lack of a better word, it's more rough around the edges, the caster, as compared to the Trio. The Rhapsody, which is the one I've just placed. Let me just take away the caster. Very similar to again in terms of the bass, the mids, the same situation, but then you have got a little bit more extension here past 10k, which then confers the Rhapsody that extra sensation of space, of soundstage, of imaging. It's just that little bit more detailed, a little bit more polished. Okay, so that's the biggest differences. Bass wise, very similar, and although you see this dip here, honestly listening to it, I didn't really perceive any such difference. I just couldn't pick up on it. Compared, compared now with the R1. The R1 has got a different style of bass. It's got instead of being a tucked bass like the CCA and KZ are using, it's got a gliding style of bass, which then confers that extra mid bass that we want in a more balanced way with regards to the sub bass, which on a tucked style sometimes you can have this void here in the mid bass impact, which can be a little bit leave you like wanting a little bit more, look, it's not one is better than the other. It's just a style that it's done differently. I find that with the R1, what I get is a more balanced presentation, a more smoother presentation across the whole frequency range, which is just more satisfying to me overall. Okay, and then finally, I was actually forgetting to put here the ISN. Let me just quickly get you the ISN and show you, just for no other reason than you guys just seeing how it there we go. This is the ISN. The ISN, although graphically, you look at it and you say, okay, well, this is not exactly very appealing. I was expecting something a little bit more. Honestly, when you listen, first of all, you do not notice this bleed because it's two 6mm drivers handling the lower frequencies, so you don't notice this. There's more than open mids and vocals, and none of this bleeding that you might get the perception of having. And then the mids and the highs as well, although they look a little bit more jaggedy and up and down, they sound silky smooth, and no issues. Again, once again, the difference is a more smoother presentation. The issue with the Neo 3 is to extract its best performance. You have to play around a little bit with the cables and so on. Something that with the Trio and with the Rhapsody, they are more forgiving. You don't have to pay so much attention, and especially the Trio compared to the Caster and to the Rhapsody, it is the more forgiving of the three, ultimately. And that's it, guys. I hope I was able to again give you a good idea, a good general idea of what the Trio is about. Any questions, anything, please feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer. All right, you take care now. Bye bye.